Overlays are not backgrounds. They're completely different. One sits on top of the picture, one sits behind the picture. One of these days I will figure that out. Anyway, welcome to the stream. I am RJ Carter, Senior Managing Editor of criticalblast.com. And welcome to the July 4th edition, where the fireworks are going to be on YouTube tonight. And you'll probably hear some in the background because I live on a resort lake community here. And they've been going at it every night this weekend, and I'm sure they're going to go over the top with it tonight. And if you don't hear those, you'll hear the dog barking in response to them. She doesn't like the fireworks all that well. We got open mic night tonight, and as is our custom, we have the link for this in the top of the chat. It is pinned in place, so if you want to come on and talk, you are welcome to, as long as you're respectful to everybody else involved. You'll also see some other links I threw out in the chat here. We are promoting some crowdfunded comics. We are promoting The Adventures of Tailless in Outer Space by Arya Black, and that is on Indiegogo. And we are also promoting Life on Korra #4 by Mike Jimmy Delorcia Bruin, which is on Indiegogo. Both of these books are crowdfunded books that are going to be distributed through Critical Blast Distribution. So we have a vested interest in making sure they ship as many books as possible because it helps our business. So rising tide raises all boats, especially ours. We're going to do some fun things tonight, too. I have run across the 2011 unaired pilot of Wonder Woman, and whoo, did we dodge a bullet on that one. So we're going to have some fun, just kind of making fun of it as we play it along. But first, let's bring on tonight's panelists. We have Mike Walters from the Mic Stand. Mike, how are you doing tonight?
All right. Basically had another lax day. Basically got up, got my energy drink, then came home, prepared my live streams for this week, setting up the StreamYard stuff, set up my viewing schedule for my other stuff, and then just, I've had baseball a bit more on my brain of late, so decided to go back through like baseballreference.com and technically I guess you could say I was technically listening to old radio broadcasts that are on YouTube of old baseball games. I was focusing in on the Aaron brothers, Hank and Tommy Aaron, so yeah. So I was listening to that throughout much of the day as I did yesterday. So
there are brand new baseball games being aired right now at this time of year. You don't have to go back to the reruns. They can.
Yeah, I know. Well, yeah, I know, but I also don't want to deal with. Well, again, it's transient, as is the case sometimes with people on the spectrum. I'm probably a little bit more atypical in that with most people on the spectrum, they usually fixate on like one thing. But I kind of have a whole field of things, and they kind of like rotate around. So, it's like for me, I was always into the numbers on the baseball stuff. So like with Baseball Reference, so I'd start with David Ardsma and look at all his stats and then try to, and since he was a pitcher, I wanted to try to see, how he pitched and try to key in on how his pitches break and stuff like that.
Now I know you have a pretty decent memory when it comes to your Golden Age comic book and your niche stuff. Do you being on Spectrum, do you hold numbers like that with baseball stats and everything else?
To a certain degree, depends upon.
Can I take you to Vegas and count cards?
No.
Oh, damn. Okay, because I was ready to go. I'd pay for your ticket and everything.
No, First off, I doubt very serious. First off, I've been to Vegas before. And granted, I do mostly the slot machines. I'll put it this way. One year I left California with 300, end up spending 500.
That's not good. You
no, it's not.
Negative. All right. Well, don't go back to Vegas. And joining us also is James D. Lee, author of The Steins and creator of the upcoming graphic novel, The Dark Goddess. Is there a "the" in the title, or is it just Dark Goddess? Because I'm looking at your.
There's a thing.
There is an article in front. Great.
But I just don't want to go that long with the title.
I have issues with titles that have the in them, because and it's not that I don't have a personal issue with them. It's that I write so many reviews about things, and I'm like, when I talk about like the Flash or the Joker, can you just say Flash? Can you just say Joker? And if you do say the Joker, do you have to capitalize the as well? It's
a technical conundrum.
Yeah, Batman pursued the Joker. I write my way around
that. I'm kind of the same way, RJ.
Remember, when you went to Batman Beyond, it was the Jokers, a gang.
Yes.
It wasn't the Joker, it was the Jokers.
Yep. But because he was assumed dead until Batman Beyond Return of the Joker came along, and that was a really good movie, and he was still dead. Spoiler warning, but
yeah,
he was dead.
I've seen it, so it's not a spoiler to me. I've seen the movie.
But yeah, I mean, today's the 4th. It's actually a big day to my family, and I'm going to give you a little history lesson real quick.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people, most Americans, do not know this. In June 1776, one of my ancestors, Richard Henry Lee, released what's known as the Lee Resolution. I had to remember what the word was. This resolution was the letter that was sent out to call everybody to Philadelphia. He's the one that did it. Now, in Philadelphia, he's also the guy that walked into Independence Hall with the Declaration of Independence. Wow. Everybody thinks John Hancock was in charge. No, John Hancock oversaw the meeting, but Richard Henry Lee was the one that was in charge of everything. Richard Henry Lee and his brother Francis Lightfoot Lee both signed the Declaration of Independence. Richard's also the man who gave George Washington control of the army. So everything that was formed on this date, 1776, was all because of Richard Henry Lee. Not because of Hancock or anybody else. It was Lee doing it himself.
That's a very important piece of trivia that you need to pass down to your nephews and nieces and sons and daughters and what have you.
Well, I mean, like I say, it's in the National Archives. I mean, you can actually go read this. I mean, he's a very big influential. Not only that, but he, along with Francis and his cousin Henry Lee III, also were heavily involved in the Constitution. That's a big thing. He was actually one of the guys that pushed for the Bill of Rights. Not only that, in the 1700s, he's the first person in American history to write about the evils of slavery and trying to abolish it.
Yeah, everybody in your family is just somebody.
The thing about it is my family was one of the most prominent families in American history up until the Civil War. And then it became one of the most vile families after that, because Robert made one mistake. And that was he basically quit the army. Because everybody thinks, oh, he got out of the army, he went over to the Confederate side and he started making war. And I was like, no, that's not what happened. Robert got called into Washington, D.C. Abraham Lincoln set him down and basically gave him the 411 of what was going on. And Lee asked for 24 hours to think about it. Because he was, of course, Virginia had left. He went home to his house, which, if you want to see his house, Arlington National Cemetery. It's the big house that's on the hill. That's Robert E. Lee's house. All of Arlington National Cemetery is Robert E. Lee and his wife's land.
Wow.
You didn't know that? Yeah. And he's all about
you know what? They've all got to be moved. They've got to be moved. That you can't have U.S. soldiers buried on a land owned by a Confederate general. If you let the woke people find this out, James.
Hold on. We're going to continue on this. So 24 hours, he went back and he resigned from the army. That means he quit. He got honorably discharged. He went home and sat on his porch. He wasn't going to do anything. I got the letters to prove it. He was going to sit home and just stay out of the whole thing. It wasn't until 4 months later that he got pulled into it. Now, because he did this is how Arlington National Cemetery started. The U.S. military was so angry with Lee that they started burying soldiers in front of his house while his family was still living in the house.
Oh.
Okay. Yeah, this is stuff you don't hear in school about stuff that happened in the Civil War. The family did leave the house, and because of the laws, Robert could not pay taxes on the house. So his wife tried to pay taxes on the house, which was against the law, because women back then, yes, This is under a Republican president. Women back then could not own property, nor could they vote. They had almost no rights. So this is under Abraham Lincoln. So the U.S. military and the U.S. government took it because of not paying taxes. So years later, after Lee had passed away, Lee's son came in and sued the U.S. government for illegal land seizure, which, of course, the U.S. Supreme Court went with the Lee family, believe it or not. So the U.S. government had to basically either dig everybody up and move everybody or buy the property. Now, Lee son being to unify the country like that, he sold the property to the U.S. government, and the U.S. government put it under the control of the Parks Service, which it is still today. It's not a military thing. It's a national park service. That's why you can't close or anything, because it's a national, land and everything. And so that's how it got today to be the national cemetery.
What a day to be learning all of this stuff on. So folks in the chat here, you can thank James for your education today. I need to get that. I've got all these little stingers here. I've got to get the GI Joe one or the NBC one, and now you know,
the more you know, I think is what you're thinking of. RJ.
Yeah, the more you know, and I was thinking of Paul Harvey, and now you know the rest of the story.
Yeah, like I said, it's an interesting line of the family, and I'll put it like this: the Lee family, yes, they have some great people involved, and there is some really scumbags too.
Yeah, I mean,
it's in all families. I mean, even in Civil War, the family was split. There was Lees on both sides of the Union and Confederate side. I mean, it was not a clear cut, everybody on one side thing.
And all I can do is look back, at family reunion and say, remember that time great grandpa wrecked the car? That's all we've got.
Oh, that happened in your family too, huh?
Yeah.
It was. I can tell you. I want to embarrass my uncle for this one. 1950s. My uncle's learning how to drive. Now this is their house. They had a house, and then out past the house they had a chicken coop. Well, he's learning to drive figure 8 between the house and the chicken coop.
Okay. He
took out the kitchen.
He couldn't have taken out the chicken coop. No, he took out the kitchen. Okay.
Yeah, he parked the car in the kitchen.
So this is how you have another famous Lee in the family who invented drive-through ordering, right?
No, this is the one that became the architect.
Oh, okay. I'm going to build a kitchen that'll withstand this.
Yeah, I mean, now the reason I bring him up is he's the one that got me into drawing. Because I wanted to because I saw his buildings. I saw what he drew. If you don't know what he drew, I can tell you some buildings. Like here in Fort Worth, he designed Huon Mall. He built 5 or 6 skyscrapers in New Orleans. So, I mean, he's built some really famous buildings. And I wanted to do that back when I was in high school. I wanted to draw buildings too, up like that. So that's how I got into it. It would be later on, like 88, when I started drawing people. And then that's when I met Jim Lee at a convention.
Right.
But yeah, it was my uncle. If it wasn't for him drawing, I probably wouldn't have picked up the pencil.
Well, I want to take a moment to say hi to folks in the chat. Jazz Crab's out there. He says I should take Mike with me to bet on baseball games. Maybe that's where we can make some money, not the blackjack tables. Captain YouTube sucks Spock. Uh-oh, the Cockney is gone, and something has happened. The captain has learned that YouTube sucks. Well, yeah, it does sometimes, but it's sort of like, why are you dating the ugly girl? And it's like, well, she's the only one in our class. So it's the only game in town right now for us.
No, she's the one that's got all the gaming books.
Yes, absolutely. She knows what a D20 is.
Well, I mean, that's the funny thing. We saw the post. Oh, D&D not going to be inclusive. Everybody's like, well, did you ever go to the conventions? Did you ever play the overnight D&D games? I mean, you had the nerds and you had the beautiful women in there. Why? Because the beautiful women had all the money and all the books.
Yes.
I mean that's honest truth. Even MechWarrior, you went into a gaming room and you had girls, and I mean they're sci-fi girls, and they were beautiful girls. They were really great girls, but the guys were broke. I mean, we had the cars, but they had the money, they had the books, they had the figures, they had the dice, and it was like, yeah, we'll play, And, you know, you're 16, 17, 18 years old, and they're cute girls, and they got all this. Yeah. You know, this thing about inclusiveness, there was always inclusiveness in the games I went to.
There was always, and you know, shout out to our buddy Jason over at Sci-Fi for Me. He really lucked into it this past week. Had that interview with Gary Gygax on there, and last I checked, he was over 13,000 views on that video.
Well, it was a good interview. I saw it.
It was a very good interview, and yet, you know, somebody picked up a sentence, and now TSR is trying to backpedal out of everything. And Gen Con has banned TSR. The people who founded Gen Con are banned from the con they founded.
Well, the thing about the cons, especially on the West Coast, unless if you have anything that's conservative, Christian, or whatnot, they're going to ban you no matter what. They don't like you. They don't want you. You can see that in Disney. You can see that in Hollywood. I mean, and the same with the comic book. The two major comic book guys. I mean, you want Stunning and Brave, and I call Marvel and DC out on this one. You want to do Stunning and Brave? You're a conservative Christian superhero. That would be Stunning and Brave.
Yeah,
I mean,
and that's
that
why I liked
would be
Jupiter's Legacy.
So, what exactly is TSR?
They're the company that originally founded D&D.
D&D.
Before Wizards of the Coast.
Yeah, they're the Dungeons and Dragons people.
Oh. The only thing of Dungeons and Dragons I know is the '80s cartoon. That's the only
And
thing.
they had control of the '80s cartoon. This is the company we're talking about.
It's all a spin-off of the game.
And the thing about the cartoon, which it was groundbreaking because it was a diverse cast. If you look at the characters, they're very diverse.
They were.
And you know, it was sad they never aired the last episode when they got home. But
did you read it?
Yeah, I read it. I liked it.
Yeah.
And the thing is, then the company down in South America did that card commercial. And if you haven't seen that card commercial, it's amazing. Have you seen it, RJ?
I think I have. I know there was a car commercial with the Dungeons and Dragons.
That's the one I'm talking about, with Tiamat and Venger. And
yeah.
I mean, they look perfect.
Yeah, I know it exists, but I cannot replay it in my head.
It is amazing how they did it. I mean, it's amazing. And I mean, you have a company in South America that did that, and we're getting the stuff up here. It's just ridiculous.
Oh, I know. Yeah, the quality of animation here is. Have you seen the new what they've done to Yogi Bear?
Oh, that was terrible.
It's a new show called Jellystone. It's like they're 30 years from now. It's literally going to be stick figures that get flipped on a page across the screen.
And this is it. Hanna-Barbera does not exist anymore.
I know. Yeah.
Hanna-Barbera is gone. Both Joseph Hanna and Barbera.
William Hanna and Joseph Barbera.
You know, both of them have passed away. They're gone. There's not somebody like, and thank God she's around, the beautiful lady for Frazetta, his granddaughter.
Right.
You know, she is such a sweet lady. And if you haven't noticed, she can draw too.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
She is really good. She's like right, you know where she got it, and her stuff looks just amazing. She's a wonderful girl. And but you don't have that with Hanna-Barbera.
No.
Well, Cartoon Network had actually bought up Hanna-Barbera a few years ago. So.
Well, no. See, Cartoon Network was Hanna-Barbera because Turner went to Hanna-Barbera and said, "Hey, can you do this?" See, when the thing about I'll explain, CNN, TBS, TNT, Cartoon Network were all under Turner Network, and it was all owned by Ted Turner. Everything was going good until he sold to Time Warner, which is known as one of the biggest debacle mergers in history. Mm-hmm. Okay, I mean, seriously, that's what it's classified as. It destroyed so much because Time Warner didn't know what to do with television. They had no clue. And it just ruined everything.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, it wrecked a lot of things. It in part. It's Mike, also what ended up in part helping to kill WCW, because a lot of the upper members, a lot of the board members, upper members of Warner, they did not like wrestling.
Well, the thing I'll explain about WCW what happened with that little disaster. WCW was still the number one program on TNT, even though it was falling apart. There was a group of guys that wanted to buy it that could not find a channel to take it anyplace. So McMahon found out about it, went in, offered a cash amount of money, which was a huge amount of money. And Tom Warner was like, "Sure, you have it." You know, they just took the money and said, "Get it." They wanted it off the books. They wanted it out of the program. They wanted it gone. And the problem was, the original idea was that McMahon was going to keep it going. The problem was he had that locked in deal with Paramount, and Paramount wouldn't give him another channel. And they didn't have the streaming service. They didn't have the WWE network.
Right.
And they had all these wrestlers. And they had all this stuff, and they had no place for it. And that's why it crumbled. And they were able to bring in some of the bigger stars and stuff, but a lot of people left. A lot of people. This is when I was around the NWA, because the NWA had split. This is what a lot of people don't understand. When Turner bought Crockett Promotions, he did not buy the NWA. He bought Crockett Promotions. The NWA broke off and kept going. And in '99, if you go look, WWE had a contract with the NWA because in '99, the NWA tag team titles were defended on Raw.
So
If you didn't know that,
I believe the NWA title was defended on Raw as well as the latest version of the NWA in North American heavyweight title.
the actually world title never was on it because there's been confusion. But McMahon still to this day has an open contract with NWA that even if he called Billy Corgan right now, Billy Corgan would have to accept he could do the NWA world title defense on a WWE pay-per-view.
Wow.
I mean, that's he has an open contract. It's open. It's lock solid deal. And when the gentleman that I worked under had it, that's when NWA got the big deal with New Japan Pro Wrestling. And that's when Kojima and Tenzin and Conway and all those guys had the world title. So that's when I was around with them. And it was a big deal over New Japan. New Japan had started doing the Wrestle Kingdoms, and New Japan became this giant juggernaut. And that's basically what happened behind the scenes. Even though the WCW thing crumbled and fell apart, NWA stayed going. It's just they were never on television.
Well, yeah, because basically WCW had withdrawn from, WCW through Crockett Promotions was still somewhat of an affiliate of the NWA until things fell through started falling through in '91, and then eventually they
when Turner bought
it in '93.
When Turner bought it, that was it. When Turner bought it, they were gone. Crockett left. When Crockett sold to Turner, they have to understand something.
It wasn't quite immediate though, James.
Well, hold on, let me explain something. At the time that Crockett sold to Turner, Crockett Promotions were $55 million in the red. Mm-hmm. And I know this is a fact. They were fixing to go under no matter what. They were fixing to file bankruptcy. They were fixing to go under. Turner saved them. Mm-hmm. And then as it kept going, Turner, I mean, it wasn't like, I think it was like 94 or 90, I don't want to say 96 is when the actual break happened. Because they were still doing the shows. When Turner had it, they were doing the shows with New Japan over in Japan. Because I saw.
You mean the WCW's break? You believe WCW's break from the NWA happened in '94?
I think it happened in '95.
No, it was '93. It was '93.
No, because let me explain. 92, 93, you had two big shows in Japan. You had the NWA, WCW, New Japan Pro Wrestling, Tokyo Dome shows. There was two of them. I was at both of them. So I know the WCW and NWA were going together. But I think when they did the cut of the paperwork, they may have already been splitting in late '93. But I think after all the courts and everything, I think that everything was finally settled and done in '95.
No, from everything I've read, it was more. Everything was done by the end of '93 because what you had is if you go to August 27, 1994, okay, that's when they had crowned the newest. That's a very infamous incident where Shane Douglas, after winning the tournament to become the new
Okay.
NWA World Heavyweight Title
Was it
champion,
94?
down the title.
Was it 94? Okay. So I thought Douglas did 95. Okay. But that was, and I'll explain about that. That's when the birth of ECW took place. And that was one of the promotions that was Paul Heyman. Now, I knew Paul Heyman back when he was Paulie Dangerously, when he worked with AWA, NWA, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Paul Heyman's a really smart guy, but one guy I wouldn't trust to control a company. But
it's a well-established fact he's not very good with money.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. The last 6 months of ECW, under the table, McMahon was giving him money to keep it open because it was helping him with ratings.
Mm-hmm.
So that was going on with that. But that's wrestling news. Today we have what we have today. But that's wrestling, not comics. So
have you all been watching? Now that you've tried to make a segue, and I'm going to keep it on wrestling. Have you all been watching this series? I don't know the name of it. I don't even know what channel it's on. I just know people can watch it. Where they're tracking down all their old stuff and trying to buy it back.
Oh, that's the archives on WWE. I've seen some of it. The one that got me was the black robe of Ric Flair.
And that was like the original one, right? His first one.
No, I'm talking about the one that he wore the first night he came out on WWF television ever. And I'll explain that debacle. Flair was going to drop the title, but his contract and basically Bischoff would not give him back his deposit. And I'll explain as a champion back then. Back in the 80s, 90s, if you were going to be champion, you had to put a deposit down on the belt of $25,000.
Correct.
Okay? And the officials at NWA, when Flair was fixing to drop the belt, was not going to give him his money back. And Flair got mad. Nor were they going to renew his contract because they were thinking he was too old. Now, at the time that Flair comes out, at this part, he's 39, 40 years old. So when this goes down. And so he takes off, he calls Vince McMahon, come on up. And so he goes up there and he takes the belt with him. So that's when the infamous Bobby the Brain Heenan came out on WWE's show holding the big gold title.
Mm-hmm.
And that was when all that went down and everything like that. Now, the minute they paid him the $25,000, McMahon put it in a very nice box. Now, I will say this about McMahon. He took care of that title. He put it in a very nice box. He put it in, he made sure it didn't hit it, and he had it shipped back with, top dollars and all like that, so there was no damage to the title. So, that was sent back. And, you had stuff like that. That was just politics that went down. Mm-hmm. But, Flair, in all actuality, Flair is probably one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. I'm not in heel. He knew how to talk. He knew what he was doing. He knew how to get crowds in an uproar. And the other thing was he could sell out buildings.
Yeah.
Same thing with Bruno. Bruno Sammartino could do the same thing. And then depending on where you were, if the Von Erichs could do the same thing, the Funks could do the same thing. Just by putting out those names, those people would show up in droves to see these people, And the thing about it was there was no social media. You had to buy the magazines to find out what was going on. And that was the other thing in Heyday. Even though you had people who hated each other in the ring, they were good friends in the backstage. And one of the biggest ones was when Magnum TA had his accident. Because a lot of people don't know this, the night of the accident, Ric Flair, Arn Anderson, and Tully Blanchard was quietly rushed into the hospital at the scene because they honestly thought it was a stunt, because back then they did stunts.
Yeah.
And when they got there and they saw Magnum, they were like, "What do we do?" Because they had 6 months of stuff to work with, and they're like, "What do we do now?" Because Magnum really almost died. I mean, he ended up partially paralyzed, and that ended his career. He was going to be the next world champion. They were grooming him to take first place.
Well,
And
Arn, you're talking about Arn? Arn Anderson?
yeah. Well, I'm talking about Magnum TA. Magnum TA was groomed to be the next world champion. Rick liked him. Everybody liked him. Great guy. I saw him several times here in Texas. Because the Funks, Terry Funk and Dory Funk were basically equal with Crockett's. They had as much power in the NWA as Crockett's did. And believe me, I know one instance where they had a flight basically land and they couldn't get out the next day, so they did a show basically that night. And basically, they had a lot of stars from the NWA and the WWF there, and they had 35,000 people show up.
Wow.
Almost unannounced. They announced it that morning that they were going to do a show that night. They sold 35,000 tickets. To show up for this. And you had some really good shows.
Well, I'm going to switch tracks here because I do have this pulled up. I don't know how this is going to play out. We'll give it a shot. It's not going to look like this. I leave it at this size just so we can show that it is coming from archive.org, which is the Internet Archive. It is marked here public domain mark 1.0. So that is all for the manual YouTube inspection to see as we risk getting the copyright strike.
Oh yeah, RJ, you were mentioning quick interruption here. Sorry.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier that in your background you'll probably be hearing fireworks. You'll be hearing them from my side too, probably.
Yeah, I'm going to mute my mic now and then here just in case. But this, folks, is Wonder Woman, the television pilot from 2011, starring Adrian Pilecki, who played Bobby Morse on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So she's athletic. She's no stranger to superheroes. She's on the Orville, but this is her turn at Wonder Woman, and it's not like anything you've ever seen before. So let's give it a play and watch it play out. Let's see if we lose all our frame rate compression on this, even though I'm hooked directly into the internet with a cable.
Because
I did.
You okay? You might want to check if you have a side window with the YouTube on it. You might want to check it because on my YouTube screen it says stream unavailable
for policy violations.
Well, it hadn't come through here yet.
Yeah, you did something.
They probably think that this is not public domain. Let's check that out.
I just looked over at my YouTube thing and I tried to refresh it, but it says stream unavailable, stream suspended for policy violations.
Yep, it's saying that too. So I'll just go to my Gmail.
I wonder if it had to do with wrestling.
Somebody tried to pop in on us there too, and yeah, there's a mail in my updates folder. Who filed it? Oh, it was automatically content detected. I will. Oh, they're not giving me an option to do anything about it. Well,
relaunch the stream.
Relaunch the stream. How do I do that?
Just start another one.
Oh, I don't want to have to do that. It's funny that the green check mark is still on in StreamYard and says you are live. So that's
yeah, but yeah, we're here, but they're not. I can see the people in. Wait a minute. Okay, we're back.
Are we back?
Yeah, I'm looking at YouTube right now. I can see us.
Yeah, we're back now.
I would suggest not showing the rest of this for right now.
Okay. Well, it is out there in the public domain.
Yeah, I'm looking at YouTube right now and see us.
Yeah,
Right now.
we're back now.
I would suggest not showing it.
All right. Well, YouTube, you have computers that don't know what's in public domain. You should fix that because you really, interrupt a lot of streams. Well, it is out there in the public domain.
Okay, somebody turn off their YouTube volume.
Yeah, that was mine.
Well, I have mine already muted, so.
But no, that's okay. First stream ever be attacked, so.
So we saw some of it. That was, they better not do that to me when I start showing my other public domain movies. They didn't do it when I showed Santa Claus Conquers the Martians, or Santa Claus.
Yeah,
versus
but it's got the WW name on it.
Yeah, that's weird because it doesn't even really. It's not even in the description of the stream, but it's very possible that it's on archive.org and shouldn't be, but we'll see. I do think it is kind of young to be public domain, so I find that a little bit odd, but I can't say that I know all the laws about it. But the guy who probably does know stuff about this is Heroenberg. Heroenberg, hello there.
Oh, hey, just figured I would come in. A lot of stuff happening today, actually. I just did a stream with Just a Rican, Rodney, and this afternoon with Marvin and Mauricia. That was fun. Anyway, surprised that, a little bit surprised that you got knocked for that Palicki pilot, but I don't know. Shades of remember when Pop XP got kicked off the air for months? You don't want that to happen to you over a Wonder Woman thing.
Yeah, I don't even know why they got knocked off the air.
They never got an explanation. It was stupid.
Oh, and this was just automatically generated. Something was protected, and there's nothing in here in the email that's giving me an option about it. So
I was going to say. There is a superheroine pilot that you could play possibly because nobody cares about it. It is the 2009 pilot of Ultra, which also never got picked up. I just thought that one might be fun to watch at some point, but maybe not. I don't know. It was based on the comic book that the Luna brothers did shortly before on Image. And I don't know.
I'll look for that one. I
look
probably
it up
won't pop
if
it
you
up
feel
tonight.
like it. It's not exactly like the comic book. It doesn't really get too far with her in costume, but there's a bit of an origin, and the origin is different than in the comics. I won't give any more of that away, but
speaking of comics, because I have this right here.
Anyway, yeah.
Dark Goddess page.
I'll look for it. Oh, you got more pages here.
Yeah.
What is this?
This is for the Dark Goddess. This is one of the pages. So this is actually page 6.
Very nice.
Oh, Dark Goddess. Oh, okay.
Yeah, this is in behind the scenes production stills we're getting on as it moves along here. So
I guess it was a good thing. I decided to check the YouTube screen there, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah. But from Fragagine, my road.
I have some. Oh, look at that. That's awesome.
So this is from Fragagine. You only had
Wait, was that your entry in the Savage Land Rogue contest from?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I only had an hour and a half to draw it.
That was an extremely hard-fought contest there with the poll and everything. Everyone, 5 or 6 artists did like an amazing job, including obviously John Malin and Irene Strakalski. Everybody was really.
Tragas looked really good because he did a water reflection.
Yeah.
You actually saw her. You had the fish in the water, looking up where the came in and got the fish. That was really well done. I like that one.
There was some good drawings of fish.
I mean, I even did one, so I was like, well,
Lil Presty was good.
It's amazing about that character, because she was only like that for 3 issues, ever.
Well, it was an event. It was a detour to the Savage Land. So there you go. I mean, eventually.
The thing also you got to remember is that was when Rogue came back. She had been gone for a while. I mean, she got sucked in the portal.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. The 2 things about that popped out about that is in that book she pops back in nude. She's completely nude in that thing. And Jim Lee drew it, so it's there. It's a double page spread. Yep. I mean, you know, she's covered by smoke and stuff, but she ain't got no clothes on. The second thing is, it's her final battle against Ms. Marvel. And that's where that comes to, because she's at the Savage Land. It's her and Ms. Marvel. They're fighting each other. And basically, Ms. Marvel's body's deteriorating, and Magneto comes in and saves them, and stops it and saves it. So
she's trying to get her body back or whatever, or her powers back. Yeah. And
that's when they split. Finally, that's when the spirit of Ms. Marvel left Rogue.
Well, I have an interesting report. It's kind of a lowdown.
I got a better one than that. RJ.
I'm sorry?
No, RJ's doing cosplay. I was like, I got a better one than that. Let me get it.
This is our bombshell of the month, AMH Cosplays, and she just happens to be doing the Savage Land Rogue in one of the pictures.
How kawinkadinkle. Very nice. It's beautiful.
Yeah, there's another cosplayer that did Savage Land Rogue that her costume is almost 100% correct, even with the skimpiness.
Cool. So what you have going on there, Herrenberg?
Well, this couple things I found.
There's
a doggy.
I'll be back in a minute.
Okay, couple things I found out today. I guess number one, as you know, Perch has been extremely active, and it looks like
he has been.
Yeah, it looks like he's going to be starting a crowdfund campaign coverage very soon. So
Cool.
I don't know. And there were a bunch of people in his chat who said, "Hey, can you recommend any channel?" Like, a lot of people don't know, right? So people were saying, "Hey, can you recommend any channels that already cover Kickstarters and blah blah?" And I listed the channels that did, including right at the top, Critical Blast. There's a lot of people that just don't know about this information. It's out there on YouTube, but they're just not pointed to it, So we'll do what we can. And
we
the
try
other
our
thing,
best.
Go ahead.
We try our best. I have nobody lined up for tomorrow night. So
Ach du lieber. So there's another thing I found out today because I've been following its progress. As you may or may not realize, how do you not know this? I'm a huge fan of FemForce. And so Bill Black, the patriarch of FemForce, just finished. You thought he was done, but no, he just finished his latest movie on Night Vale Media. It stars She-Cat, and it's called The Mummy Creeps, where she fights against a mummy, and I'm sure he grips her at many points in the story, and you know how that works with peril. But
of course,
as far as it goes, they filmed it in the woods in outside Orlando, where they do all their stuff. And he said that today, today or yesterday, they did 93 scenes and finished the movie. So I would say look for it in maybe 3 or 4 months after they edit it. But Bill Black is not done making full-length FemForce-related movies yet. The last one he did was Scarlet Scorpion a few years ago. But I thought he was done because of his health. But he got some surgery, and he's back out there filming these movies while his buddies Mark and Stephanie Heike keep the AC Comics thing running. Where do
people find his movies at?
Oh, they find it at So first of all, there's an AC Comics /FemForce/Night Vale Media Facebook group. So you just go on there, join, and you'll find out all the info. But all of his movies are pay downloads directly from nightvalemedia.com. Night Vale is one of the characters in FemForce. She's like the Doctor Strange of their universe, right? So it's just NIGHTVEIL media.com, nightvalemedia.com. That's his video company. And AC Comics is his comic book company, which obviously stars FemForce and some other books. But he finished his latest movie today, so that's very cool. I was very happy to see that.
So when are we going to see a FemForce Herrenberg crossover event?
Well, cool. Thanks for asking. So Bill is completely knowledgeable about Herrenberg. He has some of our episodes. He has both of our comics. And, I've told him how much he is an influence on us. And we have documented photos of him wearing Herrenberg T-shirts on set at this new movie. So I don't know if there'll be a crossover, but I've been talking, and this is a long-term project, which I would have to do in addition to Heroinberg. I've been talking with one other big FemForce fan about the idea of doing an officially Bill Black sanctioned FemForce movie. And we have a possible plot that's been outlined and sketched for it involving 4 characters fighting a big existential universal threat. So maybe within like the next 3 years, we could produce a full-length FemForce movie that would rival or even compete with the level of the stuff that Bill has been doing directly on his own Night Vale Media company. But if we do it, it will be totally sanctioned by Bill himself.
Sure.
So what are you trying there, Heroinberg? Are you trying your own version of a Crisis storyline or something like that?
Essentially, it would be like kind of a Crisis in the FemForce universe, featuring 4 of their main characters and an existential villain, who kind of crosses time and space and has to be defeated by the united forces of, FemForce maybe broke up and they have to reform in order to defeat this existential threat. So, yeah, we have me and this one other guy have an outline for it, but that's all we've done so far. And, it may take years and years to get this going. However, we do already have access to, a possible actress pool. So that's one thing in our favor that most people don't have. So
this is true. You've already got people who know how to do this.
Yeah.
You just got to change some costumes.
Yeah. You got to make the new costumes. You got to make, Night Vale, She-Cat, Ms. Victory, and probably one other. I can't remember who we decided on right now, but definitely those 3.
Well,
hey, RJ, within the last week or two, didn't you have somebody else on who had like kind of an all-female superhero team or something like that? I think I remember on one of your streams recently you had somebody else who had like a bunch of female heroes as a team or something like that.
There's actually 2 more crowdfunding right now. There's Clint Hilinski's Blue Bombshell, and
that's probably the one I was thinking of.
And then there's the other one, which is a little bit more salacious, or I don't know, maybe it's not less.
I don't know how much
salacious
you can get from Blue Bombshell.
Yeah, Blue Bombshell is practically Penthouse Comics, but the other one is called Dame Gang, and I've seen it pushed on a few streams.
Yeah,
it looks
I've
very
not had
good.
Dame Gang.
It looks it's all giantesses, so it's like the whole team is 50-foot women, that kind of trope.
Oh, so, I saw the thing on Indiegogo. I was like, really?
Right. So there's 2 right now in that kind of general vein, but with different themes, I guess.
Yeah, I think you were probably thinking about the Blue Bombshell one there, Mike. Although that's not a solidly female team. There are some males on the team. In fact, it's pretty much a complete satire on the Justice League. Because there are characters in there who bear resemblances to, Blue Beetle and Booster Gold.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I saw one of his drawings, and I was like going, Blue Bombshell wearing Rogue's outfit from the Savage Land.
It's a mashup of the 90s JLI, JLE with Penthouse Comics, yeah.
And
there was a Savage Land scene there too. Savage Land is permeating the conversation tonight for some reason.
Before we keep going, shout out to Mr. Peter Zemecki and a happy birthday to him. Today's his birthday.
Very cool.
So,
speaking of birthdays, and this is like way in advance, the LCS Guys show is every other Saturday. And it just so happens that the way they fall at the end of August, which would be the LCS Guys show on, I believe, the 28th. Yes, it is the 28th. The 28th of August is Jack Kirby's birthday. So we are lining up guests for that show who actually worked with Jack and will have personal stories to tell.
Yeah, Jack Kirby, the guy who created the new Dark Side and the New God.
He created everything.
As well as Fantastic Four.
Anything and everything worth reading, Jack Kirby created. But yeah, we got Rusty Gilligan's going to show up and tell his stories. I'm trying to get a few other people here. So it's going to be...
He's one guy I never got to meet.
George, we haven't heard from you since you popped in here. Is your mic working?
Yeah, it's working. Didn't want to interrupt.
Well, feel feel free to jump in and join here. What do you got going on?
Okay, a couple things. Sherberg, why go and do another Crisis on Infinite Earth scenario where it actually logistically, it'll just drive you batshit crazy trying to do a live action or some sort of live action?
Oh no, we actually planned this out. We don't. The way it would work is we don't have to film all of these heroines at the same time. We can film over the course of 3 to 4 years, and I planned this out with this other guy I was talking about with. We can film the individual adventures where what happens is there's an existential threat who basically recruits 4 villains. So we match up over time, each maybe 15 minutes each or so, an adventure where one FemForce heroine meets one of the villains. And then we take the 4 segments and we put them together in a sequential movie where at the end, eventually they can all fight the existential main villain, the Thanos type threat at the end. So this can be done in pieces over years, and in fact, each segment can be released separately or shown separately, and then it can be connected together with a final scene. So that was kind of the idea, that it becomes kind of a segmented production that can be done over several years and doesn't involve, like you said, a cast of thousands that would cause great casting woes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you could show it episodically.
Well,
yes, it would be episodic, and yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm.
Well, I was thinking, because what they haven't done, and there's only a few rare occasions where the concept actually has been executed in TV. Picket Fences and the X-Files, and there's a few others where there's a common concept that's in the X-Files about cows giving birth to humans, which rolls over into Picket Fences. While the concept is there, the actors from both series never actually overlapped or communicated with each other. A clever and subtle concept like that will actually lead to something unique, bigger, because everyone's seen Crisis or the concept of Crisis constantly.
I missed the episode of Picket Fences with the cows giving birth.
I'm just throwing it out there. It's like you have the opportunity to take inventory of everything that's happened and come up with something novel instead of repeating concepts that have already been squeezed out of rock, so to speak, blood out of rock.
Well, you also have to remember what Crisis originally was too.
It doesn't matter what it was.
When they came out with Crisis on Infinite Earths, it was meant to actually clean up a lot of continuity.
Yeah, but it's irrelevant.
Yeah.
The concept has been milked ad nauseum now, and while the original concept for it to do a cleanup, it's completely irrelevant now. It's so convoluted. Every time somebody sees a Crisis presentation of any kind, it's like, oh, okay, another one. Okay, we know what the plot is. We know exactly what's going to happen.
Basically, it's a reboot. It's a reboot arc. It's a reboot arc. It's the whole design of like with Crisis on Infinite Earths, Infinite Crisis, and Final Crisis. They were used to basically reboot the universes, to fix continuity errors, and to deal with other issues. It's
well, the idea here with the FemForce is that there's never actually been in that AC Comics universe a FemForce movie. Over the years, Bill Black has done individual FemForce themed, like not a Night Vale movie or other ones. But there hasn't been one that had it even 4 or even 3 characters from the same team in it. So the idea would just be, whether or not it's exactly like Crisis is not necessarily the issue. It's just a matter of kind of a crowning achievement.
Lots of people needed.
Yeah, a crowning achievement for for what Bill Black has accomplished over the past 35 years or so, in terms of being able to kind of plot to put in the lap of just not just him but all of his fans kind of a a culmination of that universe, as it were. I don't know, something like that.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. Yeah, you want to have a, if you're going to make a superhero movie on an indie budget, why make it about purse snatchers?
Right.
Go big.
And I was able to, at the end of season 1 of Heroinberg, with a lot of cat herding, and I mean a lot of cat herding, I was able to put, 12 out of the 16 heroines in the same room for our own little crisis battle, right? And so I feel if I can do that, then I can probably get 4 segmented, one-on-one battles in episodes, and then later on down the line, have them all meet and do a final scene. So it's basically like a 5-piece project. And, that could take 3 to 4 years, who knows? But it would be great if we did it while Bill Black and the folks at AC Comics are all in good health.
Yeah.
And so I was thinking of starting this early 2022 if we could, finish a script and get it ready. So something like that. We'll see. It's just an idea for now, but we do have an outline. That's all we have so far.
I wasn't even thinking of the movie when I asked the question. So that you took it a step above. I was just wondering if there'd be like a comic book that you guys would crowdfund together to, because you can do a lot more with a comic than you can in a movie. The budgeting effects are a lot cheaper.
Yeah, I understand that, and that might be interesting. I really don't know anybody from the AC camp except for Bill Black yet. In other words, the people who run the day-to-day operation of AC Comics are Mark and Stephanie. And I although I know a couple of people who are frequent actors in Bill's movies, I don't know Mark and Stephanie yet. So that would be kind of another hurdle. But eventually we could get there. Who knows? But yeah, I'm really too busy right now trying to get ready the 3rd issue that I'm putting out to effect a crossover with AC. But, that could happen down the line too. But anyway, yeah, since you asked, I just, figured I would talk about that movie concept. That's all.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And there, I know a crossover, and I can't talk about it. There are 2 beloved to me independent teen books that are getting ready to come back. And they will be announcing at the end of this month their comeback.
Teen books or teen books?
Team. T-E-A-M. Like
T-E-A-M?
more than one people
Team books,
banded together.
Team books.
So yeah, two of them coming back, and it'll be coming back in a crossover format as well as both individually. So I'm like, yay! I'm very happy. Both
and these are crowd-funded books. They're not ones that have previously been on like Image or Dark Horse or something.
They are books that have been previously published in the late 80s, early 90s.
Okay, so one of them is Elementals.
I will neither confirm nor deny. But if it had been Elementals, then I'd have been making sure that Bill Willingham told us last night when he was on the stream, for the brief moment that he was on the stream.
I'd like to
Okay.
kind of switch things up a little bit, throw something out, just
Go for it.
out of curiosity. Now I know you guys have your own like comics projects. You have your own like comics universes that you're developing with your own comics. What I wanted to ask, or what I thought might be a good discussion piece, a little bit here, is first I want to obviously. Well, I already know RJ's, but what would you say was your favorite comics universe growing up? Like whether it be DC, Marvel, whatever. And the other part would be, have you had whatever your favorite comic universe is or was? How might, if you were given the opportunity to reboot that universe, taking everything about what you know about that particular universe, would you? And have you thought about maybe rebooting your that universe? And what have you thought about what I guess that's more or less what I know. So basically, what was your favorite comic universe, and had you thought about what if you had the opportunity to reboot it, would you, and how you would, I guess.
Okay, so basically what you're asking is the comic books that we had when we were younger, the universe that we enjoyed, would we take all that to reboot it as one universe of our own and throw everything out? Is that what you're asking? Would we do it with what artists we would use or whatnot? Is that what you're asking?
Like basically, kind of like what they tried to do with Crisis, right?
Okay.
After DC had bought up like Fawcett and Hub or Fawcett and Charlton and Quality and all that.
So you're saying select one universe and reboot it to your
Okay.
Like what elements might you keep? What elements might you how had you guys ever thought about how you might deal
of course.
with certain continuity issues?
Oh yeah,
Like,
of course. If you want, I'll go first. What I've always wanted to do. Now, when I was growing up, it was Batman. It was always Batman. And then when I was in the military, it was everything X-Men. So what I'd probably do is, if I could, now this is hypothetical, I would take the X-Men titles and I would take Batman and Superman, and I'd merge them into one universe. And I would go more of an old school. I am not going to play SJW stuff with them. When it comes to X-Men, I'm going to give them back the old relationships. Scott and Jean, Logan and Michael, Colossus and Kitty, and then those relationships. Those are the strong relationships. Those are the loving relationships. Those are the ones that we all were around. Like that. I would also have Cable and Rachel with Jean and Scott. I would run the X-Men as they were. I'd have the villains come in, Apocalypse, Sinister, all those villains. I would keep them dark, and then I'd bring in the Hellfire Club as they were back in the days, and like that. And then with Superman and Batman back to being more of a detective. Not just beating people up, but having really intricate stories with him. Keep it dark, keep it broody. And then, of course, Superman would be the super of everything, basically big villains. And when I give Superman somebody to fight, I'm talking about bringing like a gladiator, have him come in and fight Superman, and see who really is the strongest between the two. And I don't know the fireworks are getting here.
Gladiator really was supposed to be Superman too.
Yeah, that's what he is. He really is. But that's what I would do. If I could have the artists, of course, I would go get Lee, Pasio, Booth, Finch, and then probably get a couple other guys. I know mine's doing City Baby, but I'd use them. And basically get Art Ebert, Malin, Scott Williams. I'd even and for Batman, I'd have to go get Kelly Jones.
So basically, what I'm getting, James, is what you do is you take the Superman, Batman, and X-Men universes and merge them all into one universe.
Yeah,
that's what I would do. That's exactly what I would do.
Yeah, that sounds interesting. Seeing a potential Batman Wolverine team up there, that might be a very interesting.
Well, I wouldn't do a team up between Batman and Wolverine. I would put like Deathstroke against Wolverine. But Deathstroke versus Wolverine would be a pretty good setup. That'd be a good matchup.
Yeah.
So, you have a lot of villains between the X-Men and the Batman Superman universe that you could really, go nuts with. And I think keeping it that small, but of course, you have X-Men, which is a big group with a lot of villains. You could run a company that small and get good books out, and do them every 3 months. 88 pages. Give them a good price point. I think that would shock everything back up. Because right now, 22 pages And I'm gonna say, see, on crowdfunding, 22 pages is not enough for $25. It's not enough
No,
for
it's not.
the $6 or $7 what they're charging now. I mean, when Spawn Universe came out, that was a 60-page book, which that was surprising to me. But yeah, it was a 60-page book.
It's
You know,
yeah, 60-page book for a good price. But you know, the people who are willing to pay 20 to $25 for a 22-page book. They're paying $200 for 4 action figures.
yes, I know. I just saw it on Ethan's thing. I know he's got his action figures up. You know, but I mean, it's whatever it's what the buyer wants. And the other thing is, if you're doing a 22-page book that's going to be $25, you need to have some really good artwork.
Yeah, I agree. And that's why I said early on that I didn't see the crowdfunding market as being one that was sustainable. But since that time, there have been people who are proving me wrong. The folks who do Miskatonic High are definitely keeping crowdfunding. I think I paid like $6 for the last issue, and they put one out every 3 months.
Well, I mean, you can crowdfund books, and you can do it at a reasonable price point.
Yeah.
You know, and a lot of people are just picking up the PDF. The one thing I liked about, and this is one that I really thought was really cool, is Grand Nolan's. And
The Canoe? Oh, the Alamo.
Yeah, because you had an option. I mean, if you weren't in big on that kind of storyline, which I'll be honest with you, I'm not that big on that in the storyline, but he had a $5 tier of buying him a beer. I was like, sure, I'll buy him a beer. Why not? You know, and I think that was a cute little tier, and that you know, even though I'm not wanting to read something like that, it still helps him back to the book, and you know, it's still giving you some money.
Yeah.
It's a fun thing to do.
I think Don Chin copied that too and had like a buy Laura a cup of coffee or
yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, stuff like
Yeah,
that.
I mean-
Stuff like that you can do in your crowdfunding, and people will jump on that too.
You know, part of the reason why I asked the question too, of course, because of course I've thought about that quite a bit. You know, particularly with DC and trying. You know,
Okay.
one of the things I've thought more about is trying to make it a little more lineal. Even though you have like, part of the reason why they had to have the Crisis storyline in the first place is because you basically had like two Supermans, a lot of people just focus on three of the characters. But there were actually 5 characters that they ran straight through the 50s. Whereas all the other characters like Flash, Green Lantern, they had to actually, because they did actually have a pause in between, the features. But Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, as well as and I don't know if a lot of people know this, but Green Arrow and Aquaman also ran through the 50s without stopping.
Well, and the thing about it is now
and each of those characters, of course, granted there were, particularly with Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman, there were quite a number of similarities, but there were also quite a few differences too when you look at the Earth 2 version and the Earth 1 version. And one of the things I was thinking about more recently was, okay, let's say if I was to remake the DCU a little bit more lineal, right? To where it's all like in one straight line, as it were.
like the linear verse that they've got now?
Huh?
Like the linear verse that they have now?
Something like that, because I know like when they did Crisis on Infinite Earths, and they basically merged everything together. And in some cases, like with a lot of the Earth 2 characters of those 5 characters, they retconned those out of existence. Okay, they retconned. But there were elements like, for example, on Earth 2, the Golden Age, Superman and Superman and Lois Lane on Earth 2, they ended up getting married. Clark and Lois married in that universe, whereas on Earth 1 they didn't.
So did the Batman and Catwoman of Earth 2.
Correct. And then so you'd have some. But one of the things I was thinking about the other day was Green Arrow, because here's the thing: Green Arrow had 2 very, very distinctive and kind of somewhat important aspects to each universe. The Green Arrow and Speedy on Earth 2 They were part of the superhero team known as the Secret Soldiers of the Seven Soldiers of
Seven
Victory.
Soldiers of Victory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're going to take DC
Okay.
and say DC was handed me on a silver platter.
And then, of course, Earth One, Speedy was a part of Teen Titans, and of course, Ollie had the relationship, eventual marriage to Diana Drake, Diana Laurel Lance. But then, okay, so if you're gonna have both of those elements in there, I was thinking, well, if we're gonna have both of those elements in there, how do we do it? Because that it kind of be impossible to have both of those elements existing at the same time unless you made a modification to it.
You've touched on and glossed over something that DC totally ignored when they did the Crisis. Because you had your characters like Power Girl. They're like, oh my God, what's my history now? I have no idea where I'm from.
Yeah.
They totally got rid of like the Justice Society.
Yeah, they screwed that one up.
Yeah, they never once addressed the fact that Black Canary was from Earth 2. She crossed over to Earth 1 when her husband died because she couldn't handle living there and being reminded of him all the time. And she got hooked up into a relationship with Green Arrow as she got over it. But she was an Earth 2 resident. So they never thought
that's one of the things I was thinking. Now, I was always under the impression that Green Arrow's relationship on Earth 1 was with Dinah Laurel Lance, not Dinah Drake Lance.
Nope, same character.
I was always under the impression it was actually Dinah Laurel Lance, not Dinah Drake. Like, Dinah Laurel Lance is the daughter of Dinah Drake Lance.
That's retcon.
Well, here's the thing: if you're going,
oh, is it okay?
If you're going to take DC, or you're going to do anything like that, and it's going to be the whole DC universe. Real simple: blank sheet of paper, start from scratch.
What was that?
Blank sheet of paper, start from scratch.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, if you're going to, DC is so messed up right now. If I was offered DC as a whole, I take a blank sheet of paper, set it down, start from scratch. The only books that I would not restart would be Detective Comics and Action Comics. I keep their numbers going. Everything else on the table, everything else start from scratch. Batman start from scratch. I have his villains. I got his planet out. I'm doing my stories. Superman, same thing. Every character starts from scratch. I mean, we're looking at 100 years. In 10 years, we're looking at 100 years. Basically, well, actually 15 years. 100 years of DC Comics.
I wouldn't do any of that. If I were given control of the universes, Marvel or DC,
So just got one or the other.
I would take inventory, and then over the course of 2 years, I wouldn't reboot, but I would create subtle stories as they remove all elements that are not the original core characters, the original core concepts. And by the end of the 2 years, people will have read a very subtle, ongoing, continuing story instead of hammering the audience with another reboot, another origin story, which they already know at nauseam. Wait, can I finish my concept?
Sorry.
Thank you. And so by the end of 2 years, they would actually, if someone's clever enough to say, wait a minute, 2 years ago you started with this character, Clark Kent. Everybody knows him and all that stuff. And 2 years later, no one knows who he is other than just a clumsy reporter who's running around trying to keep his identity secret. You can do this. You don't have to reboot. You don't have to go back and start everything all over again. It's total bullshit. It's lazy writing. I'm not saying here. We're just taking hypotheticals, but I'm talking about the people who are in charge of the properties. It's lazy writing, lazy execution.
It's generally because they've written themselves into a corner.
They always do, exactly. They always do.
Well,
and that's the thing. A clever writer can take that being written into a corner and actually come up with something good and don't have to reboot. They don't reboot Doctor Who. They don't reboot. What is it? They if everyone remembers Twin Peaks fondly, you remember that the writers for that show always wrote themselves into a corner every freaking episode. They had no clue where they're going in the next episode.
Yeah.
And that was exciting. That was an exciting concept, and they executed it well. They didn't have to reboot. They didn't have to do anything except going, okay, here's where we're at the end of this episode. How the hell we're going to get out of this one?
I'm trying to find where she crossed over from Earth 2 to Earth 1, the Black Canary, and apparently the internet believes
she's not the only one who did that. Zatara did that too.
Well, yeah, but I mean, she it was part of the story, not just, hey, I'm going to be, here. It was actually part of her origin story that she left Earth 2 and came to Earth 1. But according to the internet, Black Canary apparently didn't exist before Arrow was on television, because that's all they can find right now. Everything about Black Canary is all about Arrow.
What?
Yeah, it's like it's the Arrow wiki, the Arrow fandom. I'm like, come on, millennials.
Yeah, it's
Give
hard.
us back our old internet.
That was like the tweets about the most books that sold the most comics, and I'm like, you're stopping at 2000.
Yeah.
And yes, X-Men #1, generally, yes, supposedly is the #1 thing. But here's a little tidbit that a lot of people don't know. When the newsstand comics of the 60s, 70s, and 80s were selling, this is newsstand, they were getting orders of like 10 to 12 million copies. The only thing was they could send them back if they didn't sell them.
Yeah.
The difference between X-Men #1 and X-Force #1 is that they were non-return. They didn't return them.
Because they were trying to market.
Even with
hold on, Mike. The thing about it is when you start talking numbers, you got to go further back. This thing with this book sold me 1 million copies. Okay, whatever. If you really want to get technical, there's books like one that I can name because it was popped up on it. It was one of Roy Rogers' comic books in the 50s. That thing went for like 14 million copies.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, all the 50s. Yeah.
We're talking insane numbers back then. So, but they were again, newsstand print, which is kind of iffy because we don't know how many was sent back there. But, you're talking 14 million print run, 15 million print run on comic books.
Yeah.
That's a huge amount of books going out the door.
And, even the stuff today, you can't tell me somebody knows these numbers. They pay royalties on these books. So, somebody at DC, somebody at Marvel, somebody at Dark Horse knows exactly to the ones column how many books they've sold.
Yeah, it's called their accounting department.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because you got to follow. Like I know the numbers of how many books my books sold. Because what? I get the royalty check every month. It tells me how many books I get. It tells me where they were sold.
Okay.
I mean, this is the interesting thing about being a published novelist is when I sell books or a company buys books in England, it comes back as a receipt of pounds.
Yep.
So I know where the books were bought at. Where they from the publisher and the printer to where it was going. There, I've got pounds, Deutschmarks, francs, Swiss francs, the whole. I got all that kind of currency, but it's overrated into dollars when it comes into my account. But I still have to have all those records.
Yeah. Sorry.
All right. I have to go in a couple minutes, so I did want to answer Mike's positing question like everyone else did, just briefly. Got a brief answer to it. It's not going to be super long. My short answer would be I'd love to see Elementals revived and rebooted, but you were talking about 80s properties or whatever, or stuff from our youth. But even more than that, I was very influenced actually with Herwenberg and all the way back then from Dial H for Hero, and the idea that any reader could create a character and have it appear, right? And it's never been done. The average age of a Dial H for Hero contributor was literally like 12. Okay.
Yeah.
So obviously the audience was very different then, and it influenced what we became today. And it would be really great if, because it's never been done since then, if an opportunity was given to the average reader. Again, I think they should be 12 or 13 if possible, to create characters that could be used in a series. And here's my thing, okay? This is why I think Dial H for Heroes should be totally rebooted, because the versions they had since then were nothing like that. Let me explain really quick, okay? A few years ago, you had the leader of the new weird sci-fi movement, China Miéville, right? He rebooted Dial H for Hero, okay? It was nothing at all. Like, obviously, nobody was submitting characters. He was creating his own weird stuff, which is fine.
Wasn't it Vertigo?
I don't even think it was Vertigo. I think it was just a mainstream part of DC, but it was just weird. You know, it was weird, very weird characters, which is fine because that's what he's known for, new weird. But this is the thing. China Miéville is hard left, super, super hard left, okay? So you had a bias coming in with him doing that, right? The other more recent boot of Dial H for Hero, which happened in the past 2 years, was done by Sam Humphries, okay? And we all know what Sam Humphries did to a certain person who was expelled from DC. He was the leader of that charge to get EVS out of DC. You know that, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. So
actually, I did not, but
yes, he was, and EVS even said so several times in recollections on his channel. Anyway, my point is, between China Miéville, who is basically a British Marxist, and Sam Humphries, who kind of was the leader of the purge at DC, I would like to see Dial H for Hero return to its roots, which was the actual readers, not some top-down stuff, selecting and creating characters that could be used. And I don't know how it would work with property at this point. Obviously, it was kind of a nightmare as far as copyrights and all these things go, right? And who owns the characters. But I would just love to see Dial H for Hero rebooted so kids could once again create their own characters and see them in a comic book. That would inspire a whole new generation of creators, boom, right at the get-go. Right. And that's what I got to say.
Well, Dial H for Hero, I don't think was actually the first DC property that did that, because from the research I did on the Golden Age stuff, on a lot of the Golden Age stuff, they were doing a lot of that stuff even back in the Golden Age. You had like the Junior Federal Men.
Right, but nobody remembers that. Those people are dead.
The
people that read comics in the 80s are still alive, and a lot of them were inspired by creating heroes like that.
Here's the way you do that with the young children like that. When you start pushing out, saying like, yes, it's like using fan artwork. If you wish to submit your character,
here's
a form to fill out. You can submit it. We'll take it. But when we publish it, it becomes ours. You get a small royalty off the first issue, but the rest is ours. That's how you would do it.
Yeah.
It's just
the Dial H characters didn't get reused. They showed up for 5 minutes and then they were gone.
Yeah. That was because of contract issues. If they used it more than once, if they used it beyond the one comic book appearance, then there's legal issues involved in all that stuff. But here's something a few of you don't know about is Art House. Was it 5-10 years ago? Art House tried to do something similar like this, where they had McFarlane and Stan Lee champion the contest, and a lot of people submitted stuff, and it never got anywhere. And the winner of the contest was somebody who was covered head to foot, and you didn't know if it was a guy or a girl, and they had a book, and they would be writing stuff in the book.
Well, actually, it did get somewhere in the sense that it was a TV show. Wasn't it a contest for like 1 or 2 seasons, a live-action TV show?
That's something different. That's something different.
Okay. Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. But you get what I just said. They tried a lot of the concepts with that Dial H really perfected, so to speak, so well. They try to do it in various forms, and they never succeeded as good as Dial H, because, gosh darn it, I enjoy Dial H. Every time I pick up the book, what new fresh character, and who who is the person that created this character that appears in this book. That was exciting.
Yeah.
That was very involved. That had the audience very, very involved.
Yes.
Chris and Vicky were great. And they were the second people too. There was like a former guy who had it before them.
Robbie, yeah.
Robbie.
McGee. All right, I gotta go, guys.
See
This
ya.
has been very interesting. Thank you
Thanks,
so
Aaron
much.
Burke. Talk to you later.
Good night. Happy
Good night.
Fourth.
Take
Happy
care.
Fourth.
Now let me also explain something about at least concept-wise what I was talking about. I may have used the term reboot, but I wasn't exactly meaning like a straight-up reboot or just a copy. My idea would be once you have all the knowledge, once you know everything you do about the universe, try to make like a hybrid, make it like a hybrid version of it to where you take all of the better elements and make it into one universe.
Yeah, that's exactly what I said.
Yep.
And from a lineal standpoint, like some of the things I've thought about, like for the Justice Society, for example, and the majority of the characters that came from the Justice Society, you have them set in that time period, the Golden Age, the 30s and 40s,
and you just tell the stories then.
50s.
Actually, hold on a sec. John Byrne did that already. He did it with DC and Marvel. And Marvel, it was the Hidden Universe or something like that, where
the post-crisis stuff is good. That and I think that's what a lot of the '90s DC comics were based on, was like a lot of the post-crisis stuff, and I like that.
And he also did in Generations. Generations is the very concept that you just mentioned, and I forgot, the Marvel Universe, I think it was called, where he did 12 issues, but they start off with issue 12 and work backwards to issue 1.
Like one of the things I was thinking about recently when I was thinking about this, right, was, as I talked about minutes ago, was Green Arrow, because he had two very distinct representations on each Earth. On Earth 2, it was him and Speedy being part of the Seven Soldiers, and on Earth 1, it was with Speedy being part of Teen Titans, and then him having the romance with Dinah Laurel Lance, Black Canary, the second Black Canary, the one with the metahuman ability of the Canary Call.
Well,
so I was thinking, okay, how do we make that hybrid? Because those are two very, very distinct storylines right there.
I think you can. I think you just have to say, crash it and reboot.
Well, yeah. Well, one of the things I was thinking about with it, this is one of the things that was crossing my mind to do with it. So, yeah, you can still place Ollie and Roy in the Golden Age, and maybe have Ollie and the senior, Dinah Drake Lance working together. And then you have, basically, because if I understand correctly, now you may need to correct me if I'm wrong here, Connor Hawk, who is the second Green Arrow, was he like the illegitimate son of Ollie?
Ollie and Shadow.
Okay, so what you could do then is, instead of playing out the romance between Black Canary and Green Arrow 1, have their kids play that out so as I was saying, so from a lineal time aspect of it, have all the Golden Age characters still based in the Golden Age.
Yeah.
And then,
by the way, we will see that. We will see the Green Arrow and Speedy in the Golden Age on television at some point. We've already seen photos of them in Stargirl, because they had that photograph of the Seven Soldiers of Victory, and Stripesy went over the different characters, and Green Arrow and Speedy were there in the old Robin Hood like outfits. So,
well, yeah, one of the things I started thinking about here over, from doing a lot of my research on the Golden, my research with DC and stuff like that, was, you notice, particularly from Earth 2, you do have kind of the familiar line. So you have for example, the Golden Age Atom, Al Pratt. His adopted son became Atom Smasher, and his biological son was Damage. Alan Scott, Green Lantern. His kids became Jade and Obsidian. you know. So you have all those, and they became so. What you do is you have so you have the Golden Age stuff. You have Justice Society. You have Seven Soldiers. You have All Star, and then you have their kids like Infinity Inc.
Yep.
And then
That's
of
what
course
they
at
did.
that point, Justice League kind of takes over for Justice Society during the Silver Age period with Teen Titans and stuff like that. And then now as we know, when Justice League and Teen Titans came about, they came about in the 60s. So they were like the 60s and 70s and were becoming adults in the 80s. So then you have the next generation follow that. You have so if let's say you do have like Dick and Corey, let's say, become a couple, and their child would be part of that next generation. It's like
the whole reason we have to do it generationally, and the whole reason that it becomes screwed up. We basically got that. We've got there was the Justice Society, and then they got older, and we had the Justice League, and and now we've got full grown Titans. The thing that always screws it up is this: the Justice Society fought Hitler, and now you've got this.
What was that? I'm sorry. What was that?
The Justice Society fought Adolf Hitler. And that puts a spike in the wall. Is like, you can't move this immutable point in time. And the further out we go, the more we stretch that continuity thread to where it's just nothing.
Well, what you have with it, you still have the Justice Society in. Okay, so yeah, you keep the Justice Society in the Golden Age. You have them fighting Adolf Hitler. Okay, and then as it survives in the future, because what ended up happening in the comics too is that many of as I would just mention, some of those kids started out as Infinity Inc. and then would become the new generation of the Justice Society. You also, I've read some other things too. Haven't more synopsis stuff, but like for example,
here's the situation you have with
Cyclone.
Is if you're going to tell
Your
these
mic's not picking
stories,
up loud enough, Mike. James.
how is it now?
Okay, better.
Here's the situation that you have with these stories, and I'm not bashing it or anything like this. It's a good idea. The problem is this: to get people to write those stories that actually know what happens in that time frame. Okay, I was born in the 70s. I was born in 71. I'm going to be 50 this year. That's 30 years. That means people that are 80, 90 years old. There's not that many people who actually remember what's going on back then. And you go by the political films that were done back then, does not tell what's really going on back then. And then you want to move stuff around, there's where you have your problems, because things are different of what happened in the past. And when you get somebody that's modern trying to write something in the past, they're going to use their idolatry and stuff of what's modern to tell the past, and it's not going to be.
Yeah, and I get what you're saying, Jen. RJ, do you want to explain to these guys what one of the things I've been doing?
You talking about your show?
Well, yeah, particularly with how I cover classic comics.
Yeah, I mean you're going back to year zero, and basically reading the anthology stuff.
What do I do?
You read them out loud.
I read them out loud, yes, and you read the stories as they were written back then, and you do it in as best chronological order as you can. You absorb. Now, Grant, 90 years of comics, trying to absorb that much information into one's head.
And DC has tried to
a big headache.
DC has tried to make this new rule now, where they've got the linear verse. And what the linear verse is this. This is how Wave Rider explained it to Batman at the end of whatever forgettable event we just had a year ago. This was the Batman of 1938. No. This was way past Final Crisis. This was just last year. The Batman of 1938 is being taken back to his time after they fought whatever cosmic villain it was. And Wave Rider says, this is a linear verse now. You will age more slowly. and the fellow heroes will age more slowly. So basically, the Batman of the modern age is the Batman of 1938, and he's been here all along, as has
Yeah,
Superman.
that I don't think that would
It
work.
was the stupidest thing I've ever read.
Well, the thing about it is, it's just like the X-Men. And I had to explain this to a friend of mine when we were in the military. The X-Men, oh yeah, it's 6 books. Okay, it's 6 books. I think it was the Extinction Agenda that was going on. It was like 12 books or something. I said, this is day 1, this is day 2, this is day 3, this is day 4. Yeah, it's taken us to get 8 months to get 4 days of story, but it's still 4 days of story.
Yeah.
It's not 8 months of story. And the problem is the timeline in the comic books is going a lot slower than the timeline in real life, because you're telling part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4 of the story. Well, that's day 1. There may be 1 day all 3 things.
Yeah, and then you might, be in a story where it's like, gosh, Batman, whoever that masked person was got away. Well, we'll keep an eye out for him, Robin. 5 weeks later, next panel.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The story changes. Just like, why don't you put it like this? Just like in the Steins that I do. She comes in 17. By the time book 1 ends, she's almost 19.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
and then book 3. I mean, by the time book 3 comes out, she's going to be around 25. You know, but it's the person's who's writing the story sets the timeline. You know,
Exactly.
and for me, even with the Dark Goddess, there's a 500-year gap in my book that took place. 500 years that nobody knows what happened. That the reader does not have any clue what happened over 500 years. You know, that's a big gap for a comic
That's a
book.
well you can go revisit at will.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, that's the whole thing. Because why? I'm dealing with a character that time does not mean anything.
Yeah. Now, let me remind you too. I asked how you might reboot it, because I don't necessarily like. I've got a lot of grand ideas too. I don't necessarily though expect DC to just pick up my ideas and run with them. You know, it's just for my own. Like, if I wanted to make one solid continuity, you know,
I'd
how
be
would I do
trashing
it?
a
Like,
lot. I'd be
one of the
trashing
things,
a
one
lot
of
of
the things
things.
I've told and one of the things I've told RJ before. One thing I might have mentioned it to you guys too. One thing that I've thought what might be fun, and I was thinking a lot more in the line of if this were to happen in the post-crisis universe of DC. But what if you had the opportunity to visit your favorite comics universe, where like access just all of a sudden showed up and gave you a chance if you could go into DC or Marvel or whatever comics universe you wanted to, would you? And then how do you see yourself interacting with the characters? I
Well,
think
that's the other question.
that's a way of escapism, but
What aspect would you go in? Would you go in as yourself and just be normal human, or would you go in as a superhero or a supervillain, or what would you do?
I've thought about a couple of angles. One would just simply go in as myself with some modifications, but another modification I thought of too is maybe because of the fact, like, okay, so there's that random, so there in more recent years they've come up with the idea of the meta gene, right? In other words, where you have a genetic predisposition towards metahuman abilities. Okay, so what if on some random chance, let's say any one of us entered the DCU, and all of a sudden we did actually find ourselves, with superpowers, with metahuman abilities. That's an aspect too that I've thought about. But I've also thought about just simply like I'll put. Okay, so here's an example of a particular story I have running in my head. Okay, so I live here in Southern California, right? Okay, I won't name cities. I won't dox myself here. Not that I really care that much, anyways. But so I go into, like, let's say I'm in one of the nearby cities around where I live, right? All of a sudden, I find myself, I'm in front of a Radisson hotel in one of the cities I live near. Okay, and all of a sudden, I come upon Dr. Peter Cross and Michael Holt just outside this particular hotel. Um, Now you guys know who Dr. Peter Cross and Michael Holt are, right? You guys know
Yeah,
who
I
I'm
know
talking about?
Yeah, Dr. Midnight and Mr. Terrific.
The second versions of them.
The second Mr.
Right.
Terrific, yeah.
Right.
Terry Sloan being the first one.
Right. And Charles McNider being the first Dr. Midnight.
Yes.
So obviously I'm like, let's say I'm like walking down the street and I see them and I see like Dr. Cross having some trouble, being that he's blind and stuff like that. And I help him out and we just kind of, start talking and, chatting up just like people normally would, maybe we go off, have lunch together and just hang out. That's the kind of thing I'm like talking about, And then how people often talk about the idea of like either jumping in an RV, taking a trip across America, or jumping on a bike and having a ride across Europe or something like that. I've thought about doing that, in the DCU if I had the opportunity. And just go. I mean, I even know there's even this one site that has, it's called the Atlas of the DCU, which shows you where all the cities, all the major places in the DCU are, or at least from what this guy. I mean, I could try to bring it up and share it if you want.
Yeah, we've seen it. I've got a copy of it.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, in fact, we even had a guy who did an article for us. Might have been on the old website. Said where in the world is Clark Kent? And it was the whole where is Metropolis kind of thing. And he put the map up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've thought about stuff like that, though. I've thought about, how do you keep track of ages, for example? How do you keep track of birthdays? Because obviously, if you want to have the full experience, you want to watch how people grow and age over time, right?
Put it in your calendar and make it ring at that particular day.
Yeah. Well, there's only one birthday that I think is actually canon for anybody in the books, because there's only been 2 birthdays celebrated. Joker had a birthday. I don't think they put a date on it, though. And Superman, according to Bob Rozakis, the Answer Man, his birthday is February 29th.
Okay. There have been 2 sources I've used for that. The current one I'm using is the DC. Let's see. I think it's called the DC calendar. Here, let me see if I can find that. Maybe I'll share that real quick. Let's see. There's the Atlas.
I'm a purist. If Bob Rozakis said it, it was.
I don't even know who Bob Rozakis is, but
you will. You got 20 more years of reading to catch up on.
Ooh, we just lost Mike.
That's not how you share a screen, Mike.
Good old Mike. You can count on him.
I mean, right now DC Universe is.
Sorry about that. I messed up. I should have opened another window if I was going to do that.
Mike, what the hell? I had the Secrets of the Universe ready to go.
No, the answer to the universe is 42. Everybody knows that.
God damn it. You guys watched the same episode I did.
Yes.
No, I have the books.
So RJ, I have a separate window up if I can share it.
Yeah, that's what
would
you got to do
okay
now.
if I shared it?
Well, listen, that is the greatest job in history would be on the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Universe. The gentleman whose job is to go through time in alphabetical order and insult everybody in alphabetical order as their names come up.
Yes.
And he's all like letter H.
All right. So this is a site I currently use. This has a list of like all the birthdays, but not like years.
The birthdays of the fictional character.
To a number of.
What's this? Pornhub? Is this Pornhub? Looks like Pornhub.
No, it's not Pornhub.
Oh, okay.
Speaking of
called
which,
the
I already put
Private
into the
Earth
chat.
Project.
If I
Okay.
get to visit a universe like you posited there, Mike, I'm going to the Cherry Pop Tart universe. I've decided that already.
Okay, so this is like the Five Earths project here is the one I currently use, even and a lot of this is based on the ever elusive 1976 Super DC calendar. Apparently, now there used to be a smart memes page that had not only the birth days but birth years as well. But that one, for whatever reason, seemed to have gotten taken down years ago. But like here, you have like all the like birthdays of the characters. So you see there like Jim Corrigan, January 3rd, and that the Golden Age Spectre.
Right.
Now some of them I don't necessarily, even though and it does say here too, February 29th, birthday of Kal-El as well as Captain Marvel, but I don't necessarily use that one because it makes calculating the actual age a little more difficult.
you gotta think about that fours.
So, yeah. So what I do is I would just put it as May 3rd, since May 3rd was the actual date of Action Comics #1. And then I know like Batman, one of his birthdays. You see Bruce Wayne right there, February 19th. Okay. Now, one of the things when I was researching the ages and stuff like that, so on the Smart Memes site, what they would have, and I guess I can get rid of this now. I just wanted to show you this site.
Yeah, technically you don't have to keep track of their ages, and you know why? Because again, according to Bob Razakis, Batman and Superman were always 29.
Oh, hold on a sec. Hello, Mr. Yanafui. Hello, Jazz Crab. Hello, Jack. Who else is in here? Mr. Yanafui, hello. Keely Chow, hello. Jay Lee is
Yeah,
here.
I've been typing to him in the chat. They're being pretty funny with stuff.
We could sit here and talk about how to do things with DC and things like that, but you know what? I'm more concerned with what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I mean,
I know that, James. I didn't.
The mainstream can't be fixed. The best fix for the mainstream is to make an independent comic that overcomes it and overtakes it and becomes the new mainstream.
Now, I'm going to tell you exactly why I'm such a big Batman fan. And there's more than just the artwork and the stories and stuff like that. Batman came out, the original Detective Comics comic book that had Batman in it, first run, came out the same month my dad was born. So that's, for me, that was pretty cool. And yes, my dad's gone. He passed away quite a few years ago. But, Batman and the way my dad was, and I'll be honest, my dad was ex-military, became a pastor, very big man. My dad was 6'1", 6'2", I think it was. At one point, he was almost 270 pounds. Very big. I mean, he could fill in a Batman suit. I mean, he really could. He had a cut jaw. He really looked good. And he was always the dad. He was always there if you needed him. He would always do like that. So it resonated. The way Bruce Wayne looked in comic books looked a lot like my dad. And I was like, so I got connected with that way.
Your dad was born in May of 39?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he and Denny O'Neil.
No, not 31, 39.
Yeah, 39.
Yeah, 39.
Yeah, he and Denny O'Neil were both born in May of 39 because I noted that when I wrote up Denny O'Neil's obituary, Denny O'Neil came in with the publication of Batman and he went out on Superman Day. I was like, he was DC Comics cradle to grave.
Yeah.
Well,
literally.
Yeah, and me bringing that up too about the idea of how you would reboot. It's not like first off, I meant it in the sense of, for your own entertainment purposes, as opposed to like, am I going to sit there and start writing characters or stories based on DC looking to get paid for them? No.
Yeah.
It's more for my own escapism. It's more for like my own entertainment.
Yeah, and Mike, and that's the problem that they've been having since day one. They've been doing it for themselves instead of for the audience.
Well,
I just thought it might be a nice, interesting idea just see where everybody's head would be at if you had the opportunity to reboot, whether it be DC. Now, Grant, we've talked mostly about DC, particularly because RJ and I know, and I guess James as well. DC is probably our main universe. Some people,
not.
Archie,
DC is not. I went because I would put my books together because I had a whole lot that I needed in the bag, and my main universe in the '90s was Image.
Okay.
And then
I stand corrected.
Then came the X-Men because they had so many books out. And the only things I bought from DC, and this is the only things I bought from DC, especially when I was in the military, was Batman and Superman. That was it. I wasn't buying anything else from DC. It was either Batman or Superman. That was it. I didn't buy Wonder Woman, Aquaman, none of that. But you got me over to Marvel. It was all X-Men titles. Image was basically everything Image had coming out. You had Cyberforce, Wildcat, Spawn, all that stuff. I picked up all those. And also on Marvel, I'll take it back. I did get this Amazing Spider-Man and the Spider-Man issues, McFarlane and Larson and all that stuff, and Carnage and all that. I got all those books, and I've still got them back over here in thing. But yeah, I mean, the problem I had with DC, and it was a big problem, was a lot of the art that was coming out outside of the Batman and Supermans and the stories were flat. And I thought the stories were rushed. And I mean, they're really rushed now, are really poorly written now. And I just felt, I'm not going to pay for this. And also, when you're in the military, you go to PX, you tell the PX guy what you want, comic book wise, and they get it for you. They don't just hold comic books because it's different with the PX than it is with going to a regular comic book store or something.
Yeah.
So I had a certain amount of money I could spend on them. But, when you're dealing with stories and art and stuff, it was always my favorite artists and my favorite story writers and my favorite characters. That was it. If it wasn't that, I wasn't buying it. And I'm still picky like that. There's some books that, yes, I bought crowdfunding, like the books. I'll probably buy, their second book that's coming out, I'll probably get and stuff like that. But there's a couple of crowd books that I got, and I read them, and I was like, I got the number ones. I'm not doing number twos because I can't see paying $25 for them. I didn't think they were that quality or good to keep going with $25. Some other books I thought were fantastic. I told the artists and I told the writers, these are fantastic books. But I'm very picky of what I buy. Same thing with novels. I mean, the last novel I bought, believe it or not, is Dracul, which is the predecessor to, which is the book of Bram Stoker's life, fictional of how he met Dracula, and it's written by his grandson.
Oh, Tank Ferret.
Which is really good. Hey, Mr. Ferret.
Hey, guys, how you doing? Jay Lee, Critical Blast,
Just
George
kinda-
Kudagasis, Mr. Walters, how you doing?
We're just kind of sitting around, man.
I was enjoying the form.
Excuse me for asking this, but who just joined us? Because I don't think I know him.
I don't think.
RV Weasel.
Yes, RV Weasel.
Mr. Tank Ferret, the tanker of the Ferrets Army Brigade. He has his little Bartholomew tank that's got the 190 millimeter cannon, short barrel that'll blow up anything, and it runs on a V8 supercharged Ford Cobra engine.
That's right. That runs off of pure unadulterated freedom.
Yay.
All right.
Yeah.
How are you spending your fourth, man?
I'm just kind of palling around, just relaxing today. And I was like, "Holy, go cool! RJ's live. I'm gonna go hang out and say hi, and I'm gonna go live here a little later just for something a little brief, just to open up the show with a little bit of talk about the United States, how awesome it is, and despite the fact that we have much room for improvement, but then again, doesn't all of humanity?
Yes.
I think we're head and shoulders. I think we're head and shoulders above the competition when it comes to humanity.
If it wasn't the best place in the world to live, we wouldn't be talking about building a wall around it to keep people from trying to get in.
It's true, though. It's true. Yeah, no, it's just a wonderful day. I always love the 4th of July. It's a mixed bag of emotions for me. I've lost dear people. defending this nation
Yep.
and helping to bring freedom to another. And I've seen that personal sacrifice up close and far too personal. And people can be upset. That's totally fine. But damn it, they dare not attack this country this day.
Yeah.
This is the one day you get your hands off and you start talking about the stuff you do like the fact that you have your soy latte and you have the privilege. And yes, it is a privilege. I know it's a God-given human right, but you have the privilege in this country to speak your mind. So you know what? Lay off for one day and just celebrate some stuff for a minute.
Yeah. I really like these crazies that want to bring down the American empire and destroy capitalism and bring back socialism and Marxism, and they're organizing it through their expensive MacBooks.
Yes.
The one thing I've always said when someone goes, "Oh, socialism," I always said, name me one country where it's successful.
It doesn't exist.
Where it actually worked by itself.
They didn't do it right.
And they always come with excuses, because I can name the countries that it didn't work. And they can always say, I said, well, if you want socialism, go fix it there. If it's already a socialist country, go fix it. There's nothing stopping you from leaving. You can go fix it there and show everybody how great it is, and then maybe people will understand what you wanted here for. But until those countries are fixed, don't even try it.
Well, it's true that hard times create hard people, and I will tip my hat to the poor denizens of the communist countries, because I have met quite a few who have come to this country and to Canada for freedom, and the nightmare horror stories that I have heard they're like, I don't know if I've read much fiction as brutal, and I love the 40K universe.
When I was younger, I worked with a gentleman who flew MiGs in Korea.
Oof.
Okay, and he came here to the United States. This is in the 90s. He was almost 70. He came here to be with his granddaughter, and to be with his daughter, his son-in-law, and his grandchildren. And he said, this is what he told me. He said that walking into Walmart made him cry.
Yeah.
Because he said he never saw that much. And this is what he told me: produce, toilet paper, paper towels, food. There was nothing where he was at. They never had anything. And for people who come here, especially, there's a video on YouTube of a gentleman who came from Cuba. They filmed in Cuba at the grocery stores, and then they came here as he was immigrating here. And you see the difference between the two, and the huge amount of differences, and what socialism does to people. And it destroys everything.
Yeah. I'm sharing this on the screen right now. This is an Indiegogo crowdfunder. It's almost at there. It's 98% done. Loco Hero, and the reason I'm showing this here is because Monty Moore's character is a homeless vet, and she's she's kind of taken a head wound while she's been homeless, and getting up, she's a little bifurcated. She thinks she's a superhero, so she fights like one. And I want to point out that the honor cover is one of the few variant covers they have. All the proceeds from the #1 honor cover edition will be going to Operation Second Chance, which is in support of our veterans. So that link is in the chat if anybody wants to follow that through. It's a really good looking book, interior and exteriors. And, obviously, if you want to get any of the other covers, the male gaze is being assuaged in several of them. But, the honor cover itself, and I'll pull that up here just so you know what the honor cover looks like.
One other thing, if you don't want to give money to this, give money to the USO.
Always to the USO.
The USO is run by, they're not even paid.
Yeah,
Okay, and I know for a fact When I lost a loved one while I was in the service, the USO was able to get me back here for the funeral and everything. And you have no idea how much the USO helps soldiers.
Oh, it really does. It really does. The USO helped me get back here. I was deployed to Iraq at the time when my second daughter was born, and they worked with the U.S. Army, and it didn't cost me a lick of
Yeah.
leave. I don't know what kind of magic they worked behind the scene, because when I looked at my leave and earnings statement when I got back, I had that whole year still of leave, that
Yeah.
full 30 days of leave. And I was like, but wait, I went back for 2 weeks. And it was the USO. That was all I was told.
Yeah.
It was like, USO, they just, you just nod and smile and accept it. And
Yeah. When the
And the
USO does
USO,
something for you, you start crying because they do things for soldiers that nobody else does.
Yeah.
And they're all volunteers. I mean, you
Yeah.
fly in like here to Dallas, you got to get to that terminal. They have cars that were donated to USO specifically to drive soldiers from one place to another place to get them where they need to go right then and there.
right.
And
And-
they're all, most people that work USO are veterans or family members of veterans that have passed away. And a lot of them say, we were in Vietnam, we were this. We didn't
Well,
get this. We didn't have
and-
this. We're going to make sure soldiers now are taken care of.
Roger that. And I've got two things. One is the USO is really super easy to give to. You go to any of your local veterans associations, the American Legion, Veteran of Foreign Wars, et cetera, et cetera. U.S. Army Brotherhood of Tankers is another one. That if you can reach out, contact one of the members in leadership or any member, and they'll get a hold of leadership. And you can either like drop it off at your local American Legion, VFW, USO care packages. And this is one of the things I say, I'd like to see more USO tiers for in these crowdfunding campaigns. One, because that's, you got a pure profit margin there. We're just talking strictly from a cold, heartless business point of view, right? You've got a little bit of a profit margin there. You can actually reduce your prices because your delivery cost is how much it's going to cost you, and the gas is going to, because you're within 10 miles. You're within 10 miles of a veteran organization more often than not, unless you live in the middle of nowhere. You can drop this stuff off.
You can go online to the USO website and donate there.
And
which is what I just put in the chat.
When I was in Iraq, one of the posts that I held was I was our auxiliary mailman. So when our mailman was busy on patrol, I would cover his duties. And the look on somebody's face, and I got to take a moment because this is it's one of those little lump in your throat kind of deals. But when you see that look on that young person's face, because they're kids, they're kids. This is some people go to college, some people go to vocational school, some people get a job and to become an adult. These people went to hell to become an adult, and when they get that care package with some kind of snack, some toilet paper, and some comic books and some novels and whatnot, anything that they could get their hands on, divvy up into care packages, and they give it out randomly so that there's no favorites or anything of the sort. When you deliver that, when that package gets to that person, like it's magic. It's like seeing a little kid on Christmas. It's such a shining ray of hope, which is why I'm always saying, like, you got old books that you don't want anymore, give them to the USO. You got some old, you got some comics laying around. They don't care if you can't sell them because it got a damage, because it got a wrinkle on the cover. They only care about the content inside that book. They're not collectors. They just want something to read.
Yeah.
They just want a little bit of escape from the deadly seriousness that they have to confront day in and day out. And that little bit, I mean, to you, it's a handful of bucks. To them, it's priceless.
Yeah, that's
And
what
this,
that's what I was saying on Twitter when the attack
mm-hmm,
dropped. 'Cause you saw the tweet.
mm-hmm,
You know, I was working ER in Korea, and you know, when you have blood all over you all day and things like that, and I remember getting X Force One and books like that, and that kept me sane. I didn't care how much they were worth. It didn't matter
yeah,
how much they were. Even today, I still have those books. I was lucky that later on I got to meet Rob and he signed them for me. But when you're sitting in your apartment after you've had a 12-hour shift at a hospital, and you're sitting there reading them to get your mind back in focus of being normal, you have no idea how much those are worth to you.
yeah,
And you
and
try to tell it to people that have never been to those experiences. And I tell people, I said, I had, I don't mind talking about this now, but I had a problem back then. But when you have an 18-year-old basically put a gun in his mouth and blow his head off right in front of you because he's scared about going to war, you either suck it up or you go nuts. And that's one of those things that a lot of people don't talk about. There's a lot of suicide in the military because a lot of people are not strong enough to handle certain things. And those people need to be prayed for, and you need to understand that military life's not going to college. It's you're going as a soldier, and when you go through that and you've had death, especially in front of your face, you just you have to suck it up. And comic books help, and they really did. And like I said, I still have the books. And
mhm,
like I said, I was really lucky to meet Rob and Jim. All the times I got to meet Jim and Mark, and a lot of the guys from back then. Yeah, it helped. It helped a lot.
yeah. Well, when you got these young deploying for combat is for a combat zone is nerve wracking, especially to the younger folks who are going off to war, having old enough to die for their country, but they can't go out and buy themselves a drink.
Yeah.
And I can say this safely because the statute of limitations has long since expired. But when I was in and we had these young underage guys, we get them drunk, so they could have that at least once in their life. And what's really funny is it actually steered a lot of them away from alcoholism because,
Well, I
Oh
mean,
man, I never want to do
I
that
got
again.
yeah,
when I was first in, I had to get babysitter because I was 17 when I went in. So I was still that's why I was a kid. But I the problem is now. Basically, I'm gonna be 50 this month. Um, most of the guys that I served with are already gone because they really got plastered.
yeah,
Alcohol, I can tell you right now, alcohol is a soldier's worst nightmare, especially if they run wild with it. Like I said, I've buried 5. I lost one 2 weeks ago. That's number 6. And there's only myself and one other that's left. And it's all because of alcohol. Every one of them.
yeah, yeah. Well, it's we got they're kids, they're kids, and I have seen children grow up in a rapid hurry. I have seen a young man who, when he left, he wasn't old enough to drink. When he came back, his hair was salt and pepper.
Wow.
Yeah.
That it's true. Stress will turn your hair white. It's a
Well, stress will
crazy
kill you.
biological phenomenon. Yeah, it does. It prematurely ages you internally. It causes stress on your internal organs and all that other fun stuff. But and my middle daughter's godfather, the daughter who was born while we were over there, her godfather would die in an IED ambush just a few months after her birth. And all it took was just a brief lapse of judgment from the patrol leader. By lapse of judgment, I mean complacency. Because we handled our business there efficiently. We had won over the hearts and minds of the people. Heck, one of our sergeants was they wrote him in and elected him to be mayor of a village. Now, granted, he turned down the appointment, but they appreciated us so much that they were like, no, we want this sergeant to be our mayor. He's done so much for our town. He's done so much for our township. It was a suburb of Baghdad is what it was, the Al Jamaya area. And when we left, they were begging us to stay. They were they would pull some of us aside that they had a chance to work with. I worked with interpreters a lot. I worked on the ground, and they were like, we'll buy off your Army contract. We'll pay it off, because that's something a lot of people don't know this, that your Army contract can be bought and paid for. Like, you can buy your way out of that contract. They wanted to buy my contract and give me $130,000 a year to go work at the Aldor oil refinery as a security personnel in a position of leadership. And, it was heartbreaking to leave and have those people in hands of strangers, but there was a confidence that they would be well treated, because it was our side that was going to be replacing us. And I don't know where I was going with that. So this one time in Baghdad,
But you're right. I mean, even in Korea and Japan, stuff like that, when you have people who really love you, they want you to stay. And
Yeah.
I felt that too. But I will say this: the happiest day I had in the military was when I came out the doors at the airport and my mother and father were standing there, and I had my DD 214 in my hands.
Oh, there you go.
And my mother held on to me for, I don't know, about an hour.
Yeah.
That right there. I mean, I wasn't even 22. I was fixing to be 22. But I wasn't even 22 getting out of the Army. And I remember my mother she was crying so much.
Yeah.
But I'll say that was one of the happiest days of my life.
That's the end of the longest 4 years of her life.
For real. For real. My parents.
And some of it wasn't, because when I was at Fort Hood on the weekends, I could drive home. Because my parents were 3 hours away.
Oh, well, there you go.
I'm serious. You know where Fort Hood is at, right?
Yeah, that's right.
It's
a great place.
And you know where Midland's at.
Mm-hmm.
There's right one highway, straight shot. And I would go home every weekend. And my mother would send me back with a box of cookies.
My aunt,
cookies.
my brother, my father's sister, my aunt, was down in South Austin. So occasionally I would.
Closer than me. Yeah, you were closer than.
Yeah, go down and. I go down and spend some time with her and my uncle. My uncle, we had this this tradition of watching Forbidden Planet. It's how we opened up all of our movie nights. We watched that movie ad nauseum, but we could never find the nauseum, because it's still one of my favorite science fiction movies to this day.
It's a great movie.
Try to watch it back to back with some version of The Tempest.
Okay.
Oh, I'll tell you another one that's great. And this is a 1950s movie. Them. That movie is fantastic. No CGI involved. And I saw a making of the movie, and I saw how they got the ants to move, and it's unbelievable how they did it. So they had two guys underneath them moving them. And if you look at the part where the ants coming down the hallway, just before they kill the sergeant, you can see the two guys' shadow underneath the ants.
Yeah.
Just a couple seconds. But the special effects for the 1950s is fantastic. And I found this out also. The noise that the ants make in the movies is actually based on the actual noises ants make.
Yep. Yeah, it was. It's one of those movies that was like King Kong before it was breaking the barriers of what's possible with cinema.
But the only thing that sold that movie was that little girl at the first.
Well, if you want to go further back, there's a movie called She in the 1930s.
Uh-huh.
And the production value on that, you look at it, you go like, it looked like it was done today.
Oh no,
Oh wow.
I can go further back than that. No, I'm serious. This is true. I mean, it's free domain. You can pull it up on YouTube. It's only about 2.5 minutes long. But the Babylonian scene, the 1960s movie, 16 movie, Intolerance, is one of the greatest scenes ever shot, even today. The set is unbelievable. It's 10 stories tall buildings. I mean, it's all cut. I mean, it's something you got to see. And it's in 1916.
James is all over old Hollywood because he's related to half of it.
I'm related to Lillian and Dorothy Gish. That's the two ladies I'm related to. But and Lillian Gish is in that movie. But the stuff they were building back then is unbelievable. The sets they built back then are unbelievable. They're huge.
Oh well, yeah. I mean, the if they wanted to do a stunt nowadays, it's like well, okay, we got to put the green screen up, and we're going to hire a stunt man, and we're going to put safety harnesses. But you have this. I cannot remember the name of the actor who saved my life, and he's one of the big ones too. It's like we got this scene where you're going to be standing on front of a moving train, and you're going to be putting railroad ties down in front of
That's
it.
Buster Keaton.
Buster Keaton. Well, how are we going to do that? Well, you're going to stand on the front of a train, and you're going to put railroad ties down in front of it.
Yeah, and the trick is, this is Buster Keaton, and I saw an interview with him. He said everything you saw on screen was done once. If it didn't happen the first time, we didn't use it.
Yeah, Ben-Hur and Lone Ranger, 1980 movie. They both have something in common. An actual stuntman died during the chariot race.
Ben-Hur was in the 60s.
No. In the Lone Ranger movie in the 80s had a stagecoach race, and the stuntman died in that, and Ben-Hur, the stuntman died in the chariot race. It's like these guys went balls to the wall.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you got to remember, especially in the back in the day of the silent movies, all the special effects and stuff were done by the actors.
I'm the unknown stuntman who makes good
there was a couple of stuntmen that came in, but right at the beginning it was done. And I remember, because this is what Lillian Gish did, when they did westerns. The westerns were actual cowboys that came in with their horses from Arizona and Texas. The Indians came in from Arizona with their teepees and everything like that. Because remember, a lot of people back in the 1960s and stuff still didn't have cars, especially out west. And everything you saw was real. That was the real clothes. There wasn't stage acting clothes. There was the real cowboys' clothes, the real Indians' clothes like that. And she said they only had to do the scene once with the Indians because they never made a mistake. And what they would do, they would pay the Indian, the whole tribe, like $1 million. And this is back in 1916 to the 20s. And the tribes would be like, okay, when do you need this next time? Because they would use that money to build up everything they had. And the Native Americans loved coming in and making the movies because they got paid really good, and everybody loved them.
But gentlemen, I hate to be abrupt, but I have to run.
Yeah, we're all going to close out. I think we can't get more important than what we've already done.
The newer guy who just came in here, his name's RV Vehicle or something like that.
George, you're the best. I'm Tank Ferret, sir. I'm the one, the only, the cantankerous.
And Tank,
again, I don't think I'd ever talked to you or met you before, so that's why I was like kind of like.
If you want to see his tank, watch Tank Dominion, Dominion Tank Police, and wait for Bartholomew to roll out. That's somebody needs to build that just for the giggles of it.
All right.
Alrighty, gentlemen.
Guys, thanks
for having me on.
Tank, thank you so much for your service too, by the way, man. I do appreciate it.
No worries.
James, you too. This day of all days, I want to make sure that you guys know that and know that you're appreciated. Guys, thanks for coming on tonight. Been some fun discussion. It was interesting having YouTube shut us off for a while because we were showing Wonder Woman 2011, which supposedly is public domain, but apparently is not. And with that, we'll see you again.
RJ, can I talk to you afterwards for
Yeah.
just a couple minutes?
Yep.
Okay.
All right. And we'll be back next Sunday night with another open mic. Good night, guys.
Good night.